Hello, everybody. I hope you guys have a great morning today. I'm Caro Dumanni. I'm a dancer, fitness coach, creator, and founder of the Caro Dumanni method. And after years of helping people heal through movement, fitness, and personal growth, I created Tell Me Your Story as a space for real conversations, authentic experiences, and inspiring human connection. And today, for our first episode, I have here with me Rich Bracken. And he is a keynote speaker and executive coach specializing in emotional intelligence, executive presence, and leadership communication. He's a brand ambassador for TalentSmartEQ, the world's leading emotional intelligence research and training company, and works with Fortune 100 companies and global organizations to help leaders communicate with confidence and impact. He's a former national touring DJ. Rich brings energy, storytelling, and real world strategies that audiences can immediately apply. So welcome, Rich.
Thank you so much for having me. I am thrilled to be the first episode, and I'm so excited for the launch of this show for you. So thank you so much for having me.
Oh yes, I'm so excited. Can you tell?
I could definitely tell. Yes, I love that you're doing this. I love that you're impacting people this way, and I'm just honored to be here. So let's have some fun.
Oh yes. Oh, can wait. Okay, so I'm gonna get into it. So for the first part, I want you to share with us a little bit of your life story, your journey, the experiences you lived through, and how they've influenced the person you've become today.
Oh my gosh, I don't know that we have a long enough podcast episode for that answer, but we'll try. I'll try to shrink it down. But yes, I grew up in Kansas City and have always known that I love helping people. I'm a high empath. I love people's energy. I love connecting with people. And so it's always been a common thread throughout my entire life. And the DJ thing happened when I was in high school, found out that I really had a passion for music early on. My friends and I decided to become DJs in high school just to make some extra money. And it became this, not a full-time job, but a side hustle that was really fun. Got to DJ in Vegas and over in England and Miami and all these different places. And it was just so much fun to be able to bring music to people and give them that release and that escape from their everyday lives and stress and everything else. Worked in corporate for a long, long time, and then was in the legal world working in law firms when one day I decided I was having all the symptoms of a heart attack. And as a high performer, I was one of those people that kind of said, I'll just get things done. I'll deal with my health later. I'll sleep at some point. And I was just not really taking care of myself. So I drove myself to the hospital one day, thought I was having a heart attack, found out I was having a massive panic attack because I wasn't paying attention to my health. I wasn't taking care of my energy. I was definitely not sleeping well. And the doctor that took care of me prescribed this book, Emotional Intelligence 2.0. And so I read the book, loved it, started putting all the practices into play, and saw an immediate change in my life. And then so combining this high empath, this entertainer, performer, like my dream job is to host a game show, but now having this information that I know I need to share with people, I really wanted to do something with it. So I started speaking about 7 years ago. It was half time for about probably 4 years. And then almost 3 years ago, I launched my own business, and now I'm traveling the world as a keynote speaker and executive coach, talking about emotional intelligence and some other things. But it's been a blessing to be able to help thousands and thousands of people around the world with their energy and their emotional intelligence.
Oh,
that's the short version. Even though that was really long, that's the short version.
That's amazing. There's so many things, Can I ask you, okay, something a little more personal, maybe?
Sure.
Can you talk about your childhood? Like, how was home? How was, the family relationship?
Yeah, I grew up an only child, so that had its own dynamics, and people always say, oh, you're an only child, so you must have been spoiled. And yeah, I was. I'll be honest, I was a very spoiled child. But I also learned to be who I was. And I spent a lot of time by myself. So I figured out early on like what I liked and what I enjoyed. But I was a really skinny, athletic, like sports year round kind of kid for a long time. And then around third grade, my doctor told my parents that I had asthma. And being an only child, my mom was like, okay, you stay inside, don't go outside, don't run, don't do anything that's going to cause you to have an asthma attack. Because like back then, they didn't really understand what it was. And so I went from being this skinny, I had abs at like 6 because I was always playing sports, to being a stay inside, play video games, eat junk food, and I became like the fat kid in class. And so that brought on its own set of problems. I got bullied quite a bit, got made fun of quite a bit, had low self-esteem. And so I started playing American football in like 6th grade. And it was nice because it actually gave me an identity, gave me a reason to be big because I was protecting my friends. And so I played football all through middle school and high school and into college. But when I quit football in college, I didn't have an identity to be that big anymore. And I was 260 pounds. I don't know what that converts in kilos, but 260 pounds with really no purpose to be that big. And so I started a weight loss transformation, and I wanted to do it the right way. I wanted to lose weight slowly and rebuild my habits and learn how to maintain it. And it took me about a year and a half, but I lost 100 pounds and now have kept it off for 26 years. And so it's amazing. I was in Men's Health magazine last year, both on the website and in the magazine, like the physical magazine. And now I'm writing a book and have just launched a new keynote based on that weight loss journey and how you can make change happen, but also how you can make it sustain. So I'm taking all that childhood pain and turning it into good because I've learned a lot of things along the way.
Oh my God. Yeah, that's such an amazing story. And I think it's so inspirational because, usually people, go up and down and get back into cycles. And having an example of how it would be if I stay consistent, if I actually commit to a new path. The thing is, making all of these changes usually involves starting a new life. Mm-hmm. Completely. And sometimes you're surrounded by people that won't let you. Mm-hmm. So I usually tell my clients, why don't you, if your partner, is just maybe not in the same thing, maybe let's adjust it. So that they can maybe follow along eventually. And I think the best way, when it's a relationship situation and they both want to get fit, that's the best way to do it. Mm-hmm. Because when they're in different places, it's very difficult to keep going.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think too, it's also, yes, it's the dynamic between the two and acknowledging and accepting what the change is. But I think it's also the relationship you have with yourself. I will say, at my fittest, when I still have a picture that I keep handy just to remind myself of, the days that I was really hard on myself. And if you were to hand like a guy a thing of clay and say, carve your ideal body, like, chest, abs, arms, everything. I was exactly how I would dream to be. But I remember looking at that. Every time I look at that picture, I remember taking that picture and being very hard on myself. So I had body dysmorphia. I still had low self-esteem. So even at my fittest and most attractive, I was not a good partner because I was very insecure. So I think it's also letting go of that former version of yourself, that relationship that you have with yourself, and giving yourself that grace.
Yeah, I totally understand that because I've done it as well. Mm-hmm. And during the pandemic, I was like, yeah, no carbs for a year. I was like skinny and super toned and everything. And I was like, if I have to go out now, I can't do anything. I can't have a drink. I can't have a glass of wine. I can't eat. So, you have to like balance it out. And it's funny because I wanted to get a little bit into the anxiety and emotional intelligence area. Mm-hmm. And now that I've been letting go of a lot of negative thoughts, especially with myself, when I look at myself in the mirror, just not judging myself as much and just now not being so hard on myself, I started losing weight. I started becoming fit again, and I had to do nothing. It's not nothing because, of course, I'm eating, healthier, but I don't feel forced into it. Right. And I think there's where the psychological part enters. Because usually people go to a nutritionist and they're like, okay, so I have to do this, and it's so difficult, sometimes to just keep up with. So this is 100 grams of this, and now it's time for me to eat again. So I try to teach people, you can go with your flow and just find your own way to do it. It's just doing little changes every day until you get it right. So I think this, again, the psychological part, it's incredibly important. And this is why I want to get into a little bit of a section for questions. I have 3 that I wanted to ask you and take advantage of your knowledge. Yeah. So the first one is, can you share 5 signs that someone has strong emotional intelligence and empathy, and 5 signs that they may lack those qualities?
Sure. So I if I can draw it back a little bit, I'll go to 3 and 3 on each, because I want to make sure that I'm getting all the content in. So number 1, somebody that has a high emotional intelligence, or actually, has a high emotional intelligence, can understand their emotions. Most people, and this, I'll kind of talk about the highs and lows with each of these. So when somebody has a high emotional intelligence, as far as their self-awareness goes, they understand their feelings, they can pinpoint and describe them accurately, and they also understand that they can give themselves grace. Anytime I talk with an audience about emotional intelligence, I always tell them, look, you're not going to leave here never going to be in a bad mood again. You're not going to leave here never going to be sad again, or frustrated, or angry. Those emotions are okay, but if you can identify them, you can do something with them. Because I think it's a little over 80% of adults can't identify their emotions in real time. So sometimes I've had situations where I feel upset or angry, and it really is a deeper emotion that is triggering everything and triggering my responses. So again, like I had this conversation with a friend the other day. I get angry. People are like, oh my gosh, you're an emotional intelligence expert and speaker and you get angry? I'm like, absolutely, I get angry. But I know what to do with it. But I can identify what that feeling is, and I can also tie it to what makes me angry. So I can understand my triggers a lot easier. So when we are just kind of letting our emotions do whatever they want to do, then we don't have that control and we can't really do anything with them. So high emotional intelligence, you can pinpoint the emotion. Low emotional intelligence, they're just kind of letting their emotions run rampant, and they can't really identify what they are. When it comes to self-management, which is what you do with those emotions, because again, yes, I feel angry. Yes, I get sad. But what do I do with that emotion? If I get angry, do I lash out at people? Do I scream at people? No. I take different paths to subside that anger or subside that frustration. Deep breathing does that for me. Listening to heavy metal. I love heavy metal music. I'll listen to a heavy metal song and get that out of my system. So it's somebody screaming on my behalf, and there's actually science behind that. So if anybody that's listening, if you have a bad mood or if you're angry, go listen to a heavy metal, like a screaming song. And psychologically, they're kind of your megaphone. They're the ones that are screaming on your behalf, and it allows some of that tension to come out of your body. So and two, like a friend of mine and I call it protecting your peace. I understand the things that make me upset. I understand the people that make me upset. I unfollow or mute people on social media if I know that they bother me. And maybe I don't want to disconnect from them truly yet, but I keep my distance from them. So it's really understanding what you do with those emotions. I worked with people all the time that have low self-management, so they will scream at people. They will lose their temper. They will completely spiral on a day that something goes bad. So it's really understanding that you are in control of your emotions and what you do with those and what those reactions are. And then finally, I would say that somebody that has a high emotional intelligence from a social standpoint, they're great active listeners. They ask great questions. They're inquisitive. They understand to leverage what I call the platinum rule instead of the golden rule. The golden rule is treat others how you want to be treated. The platinum rule is treat others how they want to be treated. So if you want to be communicated with a certain way, I need to respect that. And so understanding that it is all a relationship game is high emotional intelligence. So especially in a day and age where we listen to talk, we don't pay attention to the conversation. We're not looking at the different cues and things like body positioning, vocal tone, facial expression. All of those things clue you into the emotion of the person you're engaging. And so if you're talking with someone and they kind of sit back a little bit, it's okay to say, I noticed you changed your body position. Is there something that's on your mind? that's a great way to elevate your social awareness. And it really just, it builds more trust, it builds better communication, but it is a sign of high emotional intelligence. But people that have low emotional intelligence will ask a question and wait for you to breathe, and then they'll go on to the next thing. They're not asking a follow-up question. They're not asking about your emotion. They don't care, or they're not aware enough to care.
And maybe not listening enough.
What'd you say?
And maybe they don't listen
I'm kidding.
enough.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I was having fun with you. But yeah, you know, those people, those people that have a low emotional intelligence, they're not paying attention, or people that are engaged in conversations, and this happens all the time. And next time you go out and about, look, if you have a conversation and two people are talking and all of a sudden you see one person do this, that's low social awareness. If I'm paying attention more to my phone than I am you, that's low social awareness. That's low emotional intelligence. People need to tune into conversations better.
Well, nowadays it's kind of hard. You know, everybody's holding their phone. Everybody's doing a lot of things at the same time, and you lose connection so much.
Yes.
I hate to talk to people, and you know, it doesn't have to be like this the whole time, but you know, at least let me know you're listening, you know, like look at me. And yeah, for me, that's extremely like a big deception, you know, because I'm not a talker. Like I've told you this before. Like this is, you know, I'm challenging myself so much. But yeah, when I do, I'm like, you know, I'm making this huge effort to communicate and you're not even paying attention to me. So yeah, and I also, I think I'm very aware of my emotions and my body language because of what I do. And I do the, you know, the whole rock and heavy metal thing, but what I usually do the most is that I take distance. And you can ask my daughter, you know, I'm like, Anna, just stop talking for a little bit. Just give me 5 minutes, you know, just 5 minutes. It's just like, mommy. And I'm like, please stop just 5 minutes and I'll come back and we'll talk about it. And when people understand that, it's so much better because I actually, you know, I take those 5 minutes and I calm myself down and I make better decisions. But when people don't give you that frame, it can go very bad.
Yes, indeed it can.
I cannot process. I know I need like a minute to process my feelings, and I know I have to do it by myself. So I isolate. And then I'll come back way better. But yeah, getting to know how you need to handle those situations, it's very important because you're going to get
that's high emotional intelligence too, setting those healthy boundaries, saying, hey, I want to talk with you, but I just need a minute, or I've had a really busy day. Can you give me 5 or 10 minutes just to decompress? And I would love to give you my full undivided attention, but right now I'm distracted because I had such a crazy day. So that's you just exhibited high emotional intelligence there by setting healthy boundaries.
Oh yeah, I think a lot of people don't really know how to handle their situations, but what I would like is, instead of judging, like you don't know how to handle, I want to start giving examples to people of what I do, and if it helps them out, you know, just give them a try. All right. So yeah, that's one. I isolate a little bit.
Well done. It works.
And I do dance to music when it's just, you know, I cannot handle it at all. I just put music and it makes me forget about everything.
Music is my go-to cure for everything. So I completely resonate with that. I'm not as good of a dancer as you are, but that I will say that music is the core foundation of my recovery.
Well, you might not know how I dance when I'm mad, but yeah, so I might just do whatever.
I think that actually begs the question that we need a video of you mad dancing. I don't even know what that looks like. I've been to heavy metal concerts and I've seen people headbanging. So if it looks like that, great. But I'm so curious what mad dancing looks like.
It might take me to like my teenage years or something like that. But I might do it sometime, you know, I'll just write it down.
I think that is your next viral video, is if you demonstrate mad dancing. I'm actually putting a request in for that to happen.
Oh my God, that would be so funny. Okay, so let me get back on track, and I want to go put that to the side.
Mad dancing over here, we'll deal with that later on.
Picturing things. Oh my God, this is hilarious. Okay, so second question.
Yes.
when someone is dealing with trauma, how can the people around them either help their healing process or unintentionally make the trauma worse?
Sure. So I think there's also the component of the person going through the trauma and what they are allowing to happen too. I do some television work as well, and we just talked about this last month, I believe, where when we have frustration or we have anger or we have trauma, most people will bottle it up saying, well, nobody wants to hear about my problem, or I don't want to emotionally dump on people. But when we actually talk about it, when we have those safe people, I'll call it my personal board of directors, that if something's going wrong, and it doesn't have to be deep trauma, but it could just be a frustrating day. When we share those sentiments in a safe, psychologically safe person, relationship or dynamic, it actually helps dissipate. So if you imagine your frustration or your trauma as this sugar cube, and if you start pouring a little water on it because you're talking about it with somebody else, the sugar cube gets smaller. It starts breaking up. And that's what our trauma does, or our frustration, or our anger, our sadness, when we talk about it more. So first of all, the person that's experiencing it needs to feel comfortable opening up and needs to understand that by opening up, it actually helps them. The people that are around them. So I think there's the component of being the person that receives the conversation. And so for that person that's supporting the person going through whatever the difficulty is, to be able to say, first of all, do you need me to listen or do you need me to help? Because that also establishes the role and the dynamic in the conversation for that person. Because sometimes we just need to get things off of our chest. Sometimes we just need to talk things out and just have somebody listen. So if you can be that person, great. And you don't have to do anything to fix it. Because I think also we're so predisposed to want to fix things or want to help people or want to step in and do something about it. And most times we don't need to. So I think the individual that is helping needs to establish their role. And there's that conversation that happens after that question that really clearly defines that. Empathy is so big in this conversation too. Not that most people wouldn't be empathetic, but there will be those that are, maybe not paying attention, not as emotionally involved or invested. Maybe it's a partner or a friend or a family member or something that you're talking. But you have to say things like, I'm sure that feels difficult. I'm so sorry to hear that you're going through that. Like, you don't have to necessarily, you don't ever say like, oh my gosh, me too. It's that person's job to listen, to absorb, to support, to ask questions, but to show empathy as well. But at the same time, like, it is really important that we understand our role as the receiver or the supporter to just be a good listener, be completely undistracted, be engaged in the conversation, and just offer that genuine support. Now, people that will compound it or make the trauma worse are those that gaslight or, oh my gosh, you're making too big of a deal of it. That's not that big of a deal. Don't ever say that to someone. Whatever the situation is big to them. So by minimizing it, you're actually making the trauma or the frustration worse because now you're putting guilt on that person on top of what they're already feeling. But by minimizing their trauma or minimizing their frustration, you're just making matters worse.
Mm-hmm. Can I just, because maybe a lot of people might not know the term gaslighting. Can you explain a little bit about it?
Sure. So to put it in the way I understand it is that if you come to me with a problem, or you come to me with, maybe you're expressing some sort of a frustration or disappointment, or you're just trying to communicate something with me, and I make it seem like it's your fault that it's happening, and I'm not listening as an empathetic receiver, if I'm like, oh, you're being over dramatic, or it's not that big of a deal, or if you wouldn't have done that, we wouldn't be in this problem. You're turning the problem back on the person because that individual that is doing the gaslighting doesn't want to accept accountability or responsibility. They also are usually rabidly insecure. And so they don't want to admit their fault in the matter. They don't want to admit their causation in the problem that's at hand. And this happens a lot in dynamics, work dynamics or relationship dynamics, where you've got one person who is concerned or hurt or upset about something, and the other person's egotistical, narcissistic, insecure. And so they're making the other person feel stupid for having a problem. And so that to me is so disrespectful and damaging. Even if you did do something, just, hey, I'm sorry, I didn't mean it that way, or I'm so sorry that I came off that way, but accept some responsibility and accountability in the situation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's a big one for a lot of people. And part of this whole project is to start, bringing more information to everybody so that they can, allow themselves to understand these patterns better in order to become, better persons, if you want.
Right. Right.
But yeah, so I'm gonna go to our question number 3, and it's, if someone realizes they struggle with emotional intelligence or empathy, what are some ways they can begin to nurture or develop those areas within themselves?
So with emotional intelligence, low emotional intelligence, the nice thing about it is that you can increase your emotional intelligence. Like with your IQ is set at a certain point, usually in your teen years, and it doesn't increase. Like you have a capacity of intelligence that hits a ceiling and that it just sticks. But your emotional intelligence fluctuates every single day, just like your weight does. And so understanding that you can raise your emotional intelligence by doing several different things. Number one, I always tell people, because we're more out of control of our schedules and our calendars now than we have ever been. So block time for yourself. Most people will, especially in the work scenarios or corporate scenarios, just live and breathe by their calendar, but people are setting meetings and taking time away from them. But if you need to get things done, or you need some time to breathe between meetings, or you need to prepare for something, or you need to get some work done, or answer emails, or clean your desk in your office, block that time for yourself. Because if it's sitting there and somebody sees it open, they probably are going to try to take it from you. I'm a big fan of visualization too, because I think so many people are just kind of flying through the day hoping for the best. But if you stop and visualize how you want things to go, I'm a big believer in meditation and visualization. So if I have a presentation or a keynote or a sales pitch or a client meeting, I sit for a few minutes and just close my eyes and visualize my best self in that moment. And what does that look like? And I did it just yesterday in Chicago for a client where I was doing a rehearsal for a huge keynote. And I sat that morning and I just visualized, okay, what do I want to do? How do I want to show up? What does my face look like? What does my voice sound like? How am I going to move my body? All of those things play into your ability to show up as your best self. So that visualization piece is critical, but then self-care. Self-care is my number one thing that I think people need to do more often, and it helps our emotional intelligence. And that is, again, take time for yourself. Take 5 minutes to just stretch and breathe. Take 5 minutes to listen to your favorite song. If you feel yourself spiraling or getting in a bad mood, stop everything, put your phone and your email away, go listen to a song that makes you happy. And most songs are under 5 minutes. So that psychological boost that you have, it may not make you may not go from frustrated to elated and ecstatic, but you may go from frustrated to, okay, I'm good. Like, well, if I can get back to good, I can turn the day around.
Yeah.
So it's understanding that you have that control. But those are the 3 things that I think you can do to raise your emotional intelligence. And as far as empathy, it is the shoe on the other foot. If you are not being empathetic, the minute you want somebody to be empathetic to you, don't expect it. Because we get what we give. And so if you want people to care and you want people to be invested in you and really give a damn about your emotions and your mindset, then you need to show that empathy to other people.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are selfish nowadays because everybody's focusing on their own thing. And I made videos about, you can be selfish, but it doesn't mean you have to be mean. It doesn't mean you don't have to be empathetic with other people. Just let them know you're taking a little bit of space for yourself. And I actually do have a routine that I do every morning, and I don't take 5 minutes, I take half an hour. And it's half an hour with my playlist and my coffee, and I just look outside my window. I used to have a balcony, so that was my preference, but now I just look outside the window and I just chill a little bit and go through my day. So I'm gonna do this and that, and I do picture myself doing some of those things because that's part of what you learn when you're a performer. When I tell myself, okay, see, if I'm gonna come on stage, I'm gonna do this and this and this and this. And how am I going to look? What if I was sitting in the audience? How would that make me feel? So I think a lot about how people are going to react to what I do before I decide how to do it. Right. So yeah, I think I think a lot. I'm an overthinker.
That's a good thing.
It's part of it, but I believe that when I know a little bit of what I'm going to do, it makes me feel safe. Because if I just run around and I have no idea of what's going to happen, it gives me anxiety and right. Stress. And then I might not be able to do as well as I could have if I was prepared before. Right. So Yeah, so thank you so much for giving us all of this information. And
Of
now
course.
I have a little request. So, this request is that we're just going to end this session with a little breath work and some
Love it.
music. Okay, let me know if you can hear the music. I don't want it to be too loud.
Yep, I can hear it.
Okay, so we're just gonna do 5 breaths before you go to your busy day. So we're gonna inhale for 4, hold for 4, and release for 6. So
Okay.
go ahead and close your eyes. And come inhale for 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold 1, 2, 3, 4, and exhale 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And inhale again. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Inhale 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold 1, 2, 3, 4. And exhale 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let's do a couple more. Inhale 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold 1, 2, 3, 4. And exhale 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Last one. Inhale 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold 1, 2, 3, 4. And exhale 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And release the breath. Go ahead and open your eyes. And thank you again so much. I'm truly honored by having you here. And thank you so much for your support. And hope this is the beginning of doing a lot of podcasts together.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me, especially on the first episode. I really appreciate it.
So have a great day and see you next time.
Take care.
Bye bye, everybody.